Hi, everyone, and welcome to our next session as part of the Career Fair today. And we are super thrilled to have some of the three personalities from industry really going to talk about something very special and important today. We will focus on mental health, mental agility, emotional intelligence today. And as we get into the conversation, I would first request our panelists to quickly introduce themselves. And we maybe start with my namesake, Rashmi. Why don't we start with you?
Right. So my name is Rashmi Sandeep. I'm from Entity Data Inc. and I'm representing the HR function from Entity Data. Thank you.
Thank you, Rashmi. Vishal, can we go to you quickly?
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, thank you so much for the invite. Pleasure to be here. My name is Vishal Gandhi. I have worked with TCS for 20 years. Since last year, I started my own company called Deep Pulse. I'm the co-founder and managing partner for Deep Pulse.
Good afternoon. My name is Daniel Goldstein. If you see it go black, it's very dark here. It's because I've had to find a location in between meetings, and the location I'm in is lovely. However, they seem to have a slight power issue, and so every now and again the power goes out. So if it does go out, I am still here. You might be able to see the whites of my eyes and my teeth, but apart from that, I'll come back to you as soon as I can. So I just want to say that little health warning. I am the Chief Commercial Officer of Triton Exec, and I have a lot of love for this area. I am a vet myself. I am a champion of talent acquisition. I am a champion of great talent, and I'm looking forward to contribute with this panel today.
Wonderful, wonderful. So thrilled to have you, Daniel, not just representing the corporate side, but veteran community. Super thrilled to have you. Thank you. And then thanks for the disclaimer. We figured out that you were right there. So that's completely okay. All right, guys. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining in. Very quickly, I think for the benefit of the larger audience, as I said, we have people across the ranks joining today. Very quickly, if maybe anyone wants to pick on how do we go about defining mental agility and emotional intelligence, specifically if we talk about the differences between a corporate setup and a military setup. Anyone?
I, I'm happy while I've got some light to maybe just jump in, and then maybe when I don't have light, then be another opportunity. So look, I think the way that I would distinguish it really quickly is, I think in the military we're used to being quite regimented. We're allowed to think for ourselves, obviously, but the corporate environment needs a lot more. We need to think outside the box. We are allowed to not just do completely as we're told. Obviously, we have to do our jobs. We have to perform them to the best of our ability. We're allowed a little bit more bandwidth than if we are in the military, which is very much regimented, strict lines, etc., etc. And it has to be like that for the military. And I think in corporate life, we're allowed more freedom, we're allowed more mental agility, we're allowed to think for ourselves. But, and we'll get to this a little bit later, the balance of the two, I think, is a great combination to really, really be successful. Sorry, I have a little bit of jet lag as well. To be really successful in corporate life.
Thanks, Daniel, for sharing that. I think bang on, and thank you for calling out the distinction. I think that's really important. Rashmi, Vishal, you guys want to add on?
So maybe I can throw some light in terms of the current transformation that entity is onto, right? Everywhere across all the social media, I guess entities transformation is quite visible. And one thing that we realized as we are going through this transformation as leaders is managing change. Veterans have always known for their grit, their perseverance, and for the fact that they are quite calm and composed during those changes. So these are some of the things that I'm looking to see how veterans can contribute into the transformation in entity. And definitely, as we keep discussing, I can definitely put on some more lights in terms of why I said what I said. Because, like I said, the veterans, they lead by change. And at this point, the need of the hour for entity is change management and to infuse that change in our employees, because I am a business partner leader. So it's mandatory that we inculcate certain behaviors. And to me, veterans are just the right ones who can inculcate the right behavior into the system and put in the right culture into the system. So that's my take on mental agility, but we can talk more about it as we keep going. Over to you, Vishal.
No, thank you so much. In fact, you won't believe I just wrote the same words. Um, but the for my take was it's a transition for a veteran. It's a transition from managing change to change management, and there is a huge difference between both. Managing change is where the anybody who is in defense are told to do what is required, no question asked, it will be delivered. Come to corporate world, it's change management. Everybody has a say. It's confusion, it's chaotic,
Yeah.
and absolutely no clue what's happening. And it's not a very different thing that what you told Rashmi. It's going to be a difficult terrain. It's going to be a hostile environment. Corporate is no different. The only thing is it's virtual. It's you have to feel it rather than see it. So veterans are mentally well prepared. They just have to navigate in a virtual world rather than actually seeing difficult terrain or an hostile environment.
Absolutely, absolutely. And yeah, I think just the setting changes, the mindset and your values, those things don't change. If you are a critical thinker, if you are a thinker and if you are an observant person, that's not going to change. And it's only going to, help you do your job better. So I think that's beautifully pointed out. I think we also wanted to maybe talk about some real life examples in our own setups. There are times when we have very limited information in hand and we have to make obviously that split second decisions, not literally, but yeah, we don't have too much time at disposal. So any example, if any one of you might want to share, how being clued on to your EQ, IQ, and just practicing a little bit of more mental agility at those testing times helped you make the right or maybe the most optimum decision at that point in time. Maybe one or two real examples would really help veterans see it in a very real light.
So let me give my view on this. I think the ability to decide and take ownership on decision depends on the environment. Everybody is very much capable of doing it. Whether you can take that decision and do you have enough support to stick to that decision, or even if you're wrong, to support you even if you're wrong. I think that's going to be very, very important, right? I think the veterans are in a position to take decisions because they've seen much difficult situations in the past. I think it's going to be very, very important for the corporate world to bring those change element into their culture. I think Rashmi rightly pointed out, the chaotic nature of corporate world certainly needs some amount of discipline. I think this marriage between veterans coming into corporate world certainly can bring that discipline for that matter. So while the agility will be important, I think the environment and the the ecosystem that enables people to take bold decision. I think that's going to be very important for veterans and for anybody for that matter.
And if I have
Go on,
to
Rashmi.
apologize, spoke over you, Daniel, you may.
Oh, no, 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 no. Rashmi, you go. I'll follow up. Absolutely.
Yeah. So the very recent national operation, if I could talk about, right? Every organization had to take some high stake decisions, especially during the scenario where they were talking about blackouts and security of the civilians, right, across. All the corporates have a very distributed workforce now. They are all remote workers. At that point in time, I can proudly say that one of my colleague who's a veteran, the amount of proactiveness that he put in place to quickly take the situation under control, because there was a set of a panic that was set around, and he just quickly put certain measures in place, which actually worked to the benefit of our colleagues in India. For example, the mandate was that till about few days we should all be working remote, and so on. But the question is, working remote only solves your operational challenges, right? What about our colleagues' safety? So every single hour, it was like a war room that was set up by the business partners to get in touch with these individuals by whatever possible means to ensure that they're safe, and if they'll require any kind of a support for us to ensure their safety, their family safety. So yes, definitely veterans can contribute and take quick decisions, swift decision making during high stake situations. Over to you, Daniel.
Thank you, Rashmi, and I agree with you wholeheartedly. I was actually going to speak from the heart here, and something which I feel that veterans have, and I have to take a lot of decisions on a daily basis. I deal with a lot of change management. I go into hyperscaling tech businesses. I help them with their transformation. I go into big corporates and help them with their transformation. My teams do as well. But there's something which is kind of intangible. I can't quite put my finger on. I know exactly what the two words are, but they're not very corporate. So you'll have to I'll have to apologize for saying them. First one is gut, and the second one is instinct. And actually, there's something you learn as somebody who's been in high pressured situations as a vet, is you learn to trust your gut, and there is an instinct that develops there, and you can use that in your corporate environment really well. There will be an instinct to how people's behavior changes. There will be a knowledge, there will be something that just is inside you. It's really intangible. And I'm sorry, I'm not doing an amazing way of describing it, but it really, the two words I can come up with are gut instinct. And you trust that gut instinct, and all of the bits that Vishal and Rashmi have said as well, which absolutely contribute to this. If you use all of that rigor and all of that agility, but you trust your gut because you've been there, you know it, you understand it, and you've been in high pressure situations that allow you to go, hang on a second, I know where this is taking me.
I think that's beautifully brought out, Daniel. And while and you're right, while we talk about it in a very fluid manner, to say that people have leadership, discipline, integrity, and grit and resilience, but that ability to actually work in pressure. And I've had I come from a military background with my husband, my father, everyone served in forces. So from the ecosystem I've definitely picked up. And I would like to share this example because we happen to know a helicopter pilot, and again, a very high risk job, especially when the weather is not on your side. And he was sharing one of the experiences that he had a dignitary with him, and he was supposed to fly, and the weather was terrible. They were not getting any direction or permissions to land. And uh, and the way he was describing that, as the pressure increased, I got more and more calmer. As the pressure increased, the weather got even worse. I got even more calmer, and I could remember all the SOPs. I could very clearly remember all my training, and I was so focused to just land this damn thing, and I was not worried at all. And that still gives me goosebumps to think of, like, this is not normal. This is not how we are supposed to behave. But that's what they are trained for. They train so rigorously that they've actually trained for that day, and when that day comes, they're actually not scared, but kind of prepared to take it head on and really focus. That I was 101% sure how this is going to roll out. And I think that's what we're talking about here. The kind of grit, the kind of mental strength they get is unparalleled. And just imagine what it can do for your business. Just imagine.
Yeah,
You would want
so
to
I
CEO
can
like,
certainly
yeah.
yeah, so it's like, being in HR during appraisal and increment cycle.
Okay. All right. I'll take that. I've seen that as well. I take that. Absolutely. All right. I think we've spoken about it. Just moving on, guys. One of the other things I'd like to maybe spend some time on is, we all are from the corporate side and some big names here. As we integrate veterans in our ecosystem, how do we number one integrate them, make them, because many of them are transitioning. Maybe it's their first job in your organization. How do we integrate them in a better manner so that they are clued on to use their instinct and their grit and all the good stuff that they bring in, rather than being underconfident and focus more on, what, I don't know this job, I have to learn it and I have to do this. So there is one way of obviously picking up new stuff, but they should not leave their instinct and the basic that they are getting from the corporate. So what is it that you guys feel we as corporate leaders can do to help the veterans settle in well and deliver the kind of impact that we're hoping for?
I was going to jump in on this one if I may, Rashmi. There's a couple of things that that come to mind. One, I've done some work with a couple of governments on sort of some members of their community that have come from larger scale, sort of more monolith style technology companies, so a little bit more of the older companies that are going through big transformation, and they're trying to rehouse them in sort of the cooler tech world. And some of this work that we did with them is kind of coming to mind. And I believe a lot in this as well. It's one thing to learn something technically, and I think we can all learn something technically. Here's a book, here's a study course, you're going to go to this class and you're going to learn like this. It's going to be, oh my God, I'm learning. And then you're going to kind of plateau. And then you're going to, oh my God, I'm learning. The thing that I think we miss, and I think both Vishal and Rashmi both touched on this, is culture. And actually, the cultural development is how do we help them transition? And there's a very famous film called The Shawshank Redemption. And in The Shawshank Redemption, there is a scene in it where Paul Rudd has been institutionalized. And how do we help change some of that institutionalized behavior that they are very, very used to working like this, doing like this? And I think it's the role of the corporate to help them go on that transition, to be able to help them with that cultural shift, and whether that's with mentors or buddy systems or actual like, hey, this is what cultural agility looks like. I think that is absolutely part and parcel of sort of changing that institutionalized mindset into something which is more akin to a little bit more free think on your own two feet. But again, that's just my view. I'm not sure how the others feel on it.
No, I think you're bang on, Daniel. I think that's what I said earlier. For people to take decision, it's the environment, it's the ecosystem that's very, very important. And it's not about how do we induct veterans and train them on what is required to be done, but it's also a very important element for the corporate to also bring that change to create an inclusive environment, right? We can't really expect people to let go of their personalities and then get 100% aligned to the corporate culture, right? I think that's where the balanced approach between making sure that you give them that space, give them that confidence to use their gut, to use their experience to say this is doable, this is not doable. Imagine if you get into a corporate where you are clearly told you cannot go beyond this line. They'll stick to it, but they will not be able to be who they are, right? And that's where it's going to be very, very important, where every corporate should certainly have, and many corporates certainly have a very good induction, ecosystem where they train people and so on and so forth. But what we miss out on in most large setups is to also bring that internal change within the culture of the organization to make sure that everybody can be who they are. And I think that's going to be very, very important.
Further adding to our friends here, one thing is the skills, the relevant skills, right? That most of the corporates, they feel our veterans do not have the relevant skills that can help them outshine in this organization. Now, the relevant skills can be built not through classrooms, because these people are not used or tuned, right, to any classroom trainings. They require proper boot camp reskilling. because they have to, their DNA, they need to rewire their DNA. So boot camp reskilling program is something that every corporate should actually start planning in case they would want to attract more veterans into their leadership roles, and help break the myth that they don't come with any kind of a skills, right? And the other thing is, of course, some of the softer skills, because sometimes the veterans, while the superpower is their composure, but they are also perceived as a very aggressive leaders, which perhaps to some extent might be required when you have to push change into the system. But then when we have to drive a behavioral change in the workforce, a bit of a finesse in the personality needs to be brought in, right? So some of these things can very well and easily be addressed through some of the boot camp training skills or reskilling that could be done for the veterans.
I see Daniel smiling.
When you were
Did
saying
you
that, I was
go
sort of
through
like
some of this?
no, no. I well, a little. I've been through a fair amount of change, constant iteration, constant iteration. And I think that I was just going to say two things really quickly. I was smiling because it was like the softening of the edges. I was sort of like imagining the softening of the edges as you were sort of talking, Rashmi. And actually, I think it's really, really important, that some of that sharpness is sort of gently sanded away, or sort of just molded away. And just to the point, like I think of the Dan that sits in front of you today to the Dan that sort of left the army in my 20s. Is a very, very different person. But I think, and the one thing I would say to that is I believe greatly in personal development, and the personal development is not a sort of a straight line. It's not it's a kind of like an incremental thing, and you have to like accept that it's not going to be just done. You're constantly going to be learning. And the thing that I think all corporates should have is that ability to be reflective, and for people to be able to have that opportunity to kind of hold up their hands and say, okay, I did wrong. This is what I've learned from that failure. And again, that is a corporate culture piece that I think it's becoming more and more widespread in businesses. Is it totally wide? No, it's not. But I think that those things, alongside the thing that Rashmi was saying, is that softening of the person, I think is really, really important.
Yeah, I think that's where the culture comes in, right? Daniel, Rashmi, Vishal, because the setup that they were in, they couldn't afford to be a very maybe cool leader to say that okay, do this. If you don't do it, that's also okay. You can't afford that, right? It's national security at stake. And obviously, when you come this side, and I feel especially this is very relevant because of such multi-generational workforce we have today. We work with people across the board, and I think every interaction has to be a little modulated with the way that we are engaging with folks. So I think veterans not being any exception to that. I think we have somewhat similar for Gen Zs also as they entered the corporate setups. I think one of the things we might want to get some more reflection around is that we talked about the veteran side of story, obviously, and the stuff that they need to do. What we need to do at the corporate side, there are recruiters, there are hiring managers, there are business leaders. I think fair amount of work has to happen this side as well, so that they are able to perceive the talent in the right manner. Any best practices that you all can share, which will help other corporates to really do justice to the talent and not have any biases kind of fed into their minds or their systems.
So I can just talk about one of the initiatives that we have in our organization, a global initiative where we have employee resource groups who actually support in onboarding right from day one of the veteran in the organization till it comes till a certain point in time where they are all set to follow the journey in the corporate. So the employee resource groups actually support, because that gives them some bit of like a buddy system, right? The group, it's instead of just one-to-one buddy system, here you have an entire group who's a veteran advocate supporting the veterans. And these groups are generally the ones who are very inspiring and influential. So that kind of is helping us at least hire veterans in our global teams.
I was going to jump in. There's two things that come to mind. One is I am a huge passionate advocate of trying to beat unconscious bias, and the way you beat unconscious bias in an interview process is you do things like you don't really send around the CV, or you try and take out some of the bits in the CV that are going to create some unconscious bias. You try and get interviewers also to not share their interview notes or not share that, oh, I spoke to this person and, oh, I think a bit of this. And actually, you try and take that away. I think people are very good at knowing what they know because it's like them. Oh, I went to this university and, oh, I know this person wears pink and yellow shoes. I wear pink and yellow shoes. So they must be great and cool like me. Actually, if we are able to help our hiring managers and our on our interview panels on changing some of that unconscious bias, I think you actually get to a better hiring as well. And that as corporates, we should be doing more and more because ultimately we want a more diverse workforce. A vet is going to bring a different thinking than say a person that's not been in that world. And again, I think we have to be more open to how we go through the interview process. So it's not like, oh, that person did that. Nah, I don't like that. It's going to make me feel uncomfortable. Uncomfortable is good. Actually, that brings diversity of thought. So yeah.
Look, I don't think there would be any simple answer for it, Rashmi, because I don't think corporate alone can create more demand for veterans. I think it's going to be a balanced approach. I know it's not easy for veterans to come get skilled and not having those opportunities in the market. I think getting the relevant, making sure that a corporate aligns with company like yours to give an idea in terms of what sort of skills that they're looking for. Collaborate with somebody like you to make those veterans relevant for the job opportunities in the market. Whether they consume or somebody else consume, that's a secondary thing. But having to know that what's really required in the market today and maybe in the future would be very, very important. So I think corporate, both in terms of what they can do to do boot camps, train people, bring that change within the environment, to hire people for the attitude and attribute that they bring in rather than only skills. In addition to that, collaborating with companies like yours in ensuring that they handle these veterans to make them market ready, so that whether they consume or not, they are there for somebody to be consumed later on. I think that's going to be very important. So corporate plays double role: what they can do for themselves and then what they can do to help veterans to be ready for the society.
Absolutely. And I think, Vishal, you bring in a very important point of veteran support groups, and you spoke about ally groups and, resource groups, Rashmi. So I think these are all absolutely important. And there are, at least in India, what we have seen over the past 1 year, definitely many veteran support groups coming up. There are organizations who are pledging to not only support the cause, but also, work with us to build, say, training content or run workshops to sensitize people in corporate setups as well as veterans as they are transitioning. So we partner closely with the training institutes, government bodies, veteran networks, and the groups to ensure, whatever support as we are building our solutions can be put to market. Veteran transition program is something, maybe I'll take a minute to explain real quick. It's something that we have built, which is a self-paced 21-hour learning journey for veterans who are transitioning for the first time from from military to corporate, and it kind of preps them in terms of what to expect as they land here. Some very basic nuances around communication, around going about finances, BD operations. So I think we're trying to give a holistic overview of a unit that they might be part of, and then obviously there are specializations people do basis their interest and their expertise experience. So I think those further add on to the skills. So yes, definitely, I think upskilling is very, very critical. And I think in our corporate setup also, we keep talking about it to ensure employees from time to time are reskilling, upskilling, so as to stay relevant for the jobs of the future. I think same applies for veterans, even more because they come from a even a lot different environment than typical where we look forward for our talent. I think we are at the we do have some last 5 6 minutes. So very quickly as we wrap up, guys, what is one piece of advice you'd like to give to a veteran who he or she is trying to find a job in say next 1 or 2 months in the transition phase? Any piece of advice around upskilling, around technology to look after, any piece of nugget in information here would be super super helpful. Daniel, you want to go?
Yeah, sure. Happy to go. Um, so I kind of was just thinking about this question, and there's a couple of things that sort of spring to mind. Look, we can do lots of training, we can do lots of thought, but I think what I really want to, I've probably just been saying this repeatedly, is I want to hone in on the soft skills. I really, really want them to champion their soft skills and actually like what are the things that that they understand. There's a couple of things I've written down as we've been speaking today. You know, we talked about culture, we talked about agility, we talked about change, being change agents. I think this is a huge one, by the way. That's a skill in itself. You know, I was sort of thinking about the line of work that I'm in, which is talent acquisition. There's a very famous meme that got sent around the talent acquisition community about a talent acquisition manager that was riding a bike that was on fire and everything around them was on fire. And actually, you think about someone who's been in the military. Well, that's a kind of an environment they might be used to. It's really, you know, that's a skill in itself. The thing that I really want to just be just my final sort of soft skill I think we should celebrate and they should really be thinking about is their resilience and their ability to be resilient when they are learning a new thing, being taken outside of their comfort zone, and to try to just think about those soft skills as opposed to I've got to go and learn this to do that. I want them to really, really focus on the things that they have within their makeup that they've learned in the military that actually give them a lot more ability and maturity than, say, others that haven't been through those experiences.
Perfect, perfect. And I think just adding on to that, the articulation of that, one is obviously recognizing that and being super confident about it, and then articulating that because the lingo is also different. So they have to also kind of learn ways of working and how the conversation. So that's I think one thing that I see many veterans also struggle initially with, but yeah, it's not a big one. But yeah, as they settle in, that's also is very important uh, to be really comfortable in terms of what they're going to do in the job, what they're really good at, and then articulating that with the same passion,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. I think you touched that point, and because you said passion, I wrote three E's, which I believe I would like to suggest. One, I think they need to look at what really excites them the most, because whatever excites them the most, I think they can thrive in that, right? Second, engaging with the society and networking is going to be very, very key, because what's really happening, where the industry is moving, what's happening in the environment that really excites them also will make them aware whether they want to take that route or not. And we talk about employment, and most of the time we talk about employment. And Rashmi, I know that we have been working on the entrepreneurship program also for Deep Pulse. Once you are excited, once you engage, once you know what you want to do, look at both options. Look at employment as an option, but also look at entrepreneurship as an option. Startups, everybody's talking about startup. Everybody wants to be a startup. Everybody wants to be a founder of a startup, right? And there are many, many opportunities out there in the market, and most of the governments are now supporting, encouraging, and also enabling these startups. So instead of only looking at employment as an option, they can also look at entrepreneurship as an option, not only to make sure that they are building something for themselves, but they can also create a lot of employment opportunities for other people who are going to follow them from the veteran group, right?
Yeah.
So all of this, say, be excited, engage and network, and employment or entrepreneurship, take any option and thrive in it. That's what I would suggest.
Perfect. Perfect.
I think Vishal and Daniel have summarized it all. So all that I have to say is, if if these people who are looking forward to have a career with corporate, right, if they are not fragile but they're agile, then they can actually come into entity's career site and look forward for all the postings that's available for them. It's just out there in all the social medias, and Rashmi, definitely you will know about it, right?
Love it.
So love, lot of global opportunities inside, outside, everywhere. So please join us and come join us. And I hope to see you on this side of the what do you call this side of the world very soon. And I hope I get to onboard you all.
That is so cool. That's really wonderful. And I'm also wanting to just share that jobs would be listed on Career Fair from all of you. So
Right.
do check out, do apply, and we have some exciting times ahead. Thank you so much, everyone. I really really appreciate Rashmi, Danielle, Vishal for making time. It was amazing to have you all, and very very meaningful conversation. Thank you so much. Have a good evening, all.